Welcome to Fast Politics, Maddie.
Great to be back, Molly. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. It's just amazing. Wait, I think this is the end of MAGA. What comes
Ooh.
next could be worse.
Yeah.
What could be next could be worse. It could be MAGA, but with real hardcore anti-Semitism,
Yeah.
which is what I think is percolating. But
Yes.
the MAGA coalition that we once knew, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and the Lauren Boeberts,
I think
discuss.
discuss. Yeah, I think it's very. First of all these people are slightly deranged, so it's always hard to impose rational thinking on all of them. You know, when it comes to Marjorie Taylor Greene, is it being driven by principle? Is it being driven by
I think
self-interest
we
and
should.
self-aggrandizement?
Do we think anything that any of these people do is being driven by principle?
No, but I'm just
Okay.
giving the options of what it
Okay.
could be, because she
All
would
right.
say it's because I want transparency on Epstein, and that's why I've gone against Trump on this.
Yes.
Others, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, have suggested it's because Donald Trump spiked a Senate run by her, and
Yes.
this is her, this is a scorned woman, pissed off. Now she might run for president against J.D. Vance. So who knows what's driving these people? Clearly something's going on. And what's so fascinating always is Trump always makes things worse for himself, right? He could
Amazing.
easily win these people back. They're part of a cult. Instead, what
Yes.
does he do? He goes and calls her a traitor. He basically incites violence against her. We had a whole month of Republican hand-wringing after Charlie Kirk. We need to tone down the rhetoric. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
Donald Trump is getting members of his own party, not just MTG, but I believe a state lawmaker in Indiana, swatted at their homes after he attacks them online. So I think if MAGA is breaking down, it's Trump doing the breaking of it. But I would say, Molly, it is too soon to tell. I've heard too many forecasts about the death of MAGA, and it is a cult. So at the end of the day, the vast majority of people still do blindly stick with Trump through right and wrong. And I don't think Donald Trump's going anywhere anytime soon. I think it's too early to say stuff like, oh, he's now a lame duck president. No, he's not. He's got violent, armed, rogue police raiding churches in Charlotte. Like, he's not weak.
Yeah, that is he does have a he's the first president of modern American political life to have his own militia.
Yes.
So it's important not to underestimate that. And I do think, like, the one lesson that any of us may have learned, and again, you'll notice how I've couched the language and may have. Remember the anonymous senator who said no one expects Donald Trump to overthrow the government?
Yep.
He's going to go play some golf.
Yep.
I think about that guy.
Yeah. There's many of them. He
That
or she was
guy.
symbolic of many of them. But that's the problem, right? There's always been this basically on the Republican right, Molly, there's been a complacency about, guys, calm down, take him seriously, not literally, or literally not seriously, whatever day of the week it is.
Physically, not mentally.
Yeah. And then on the kind of liberal, I want to call it MSNBC wing, the hashtag resistance side, it's always the walls are closing in. Trump is nearly done for. And I think both extremes are a mistake. I think Donald Trump is a great survivor. He's definitely done things that many of us thought he wouldn't do. I didn't think he would be back for, a second term on January the 7th, 2021, like many others, but he did come back. I didn't think he would win the first time in 2016, and he did. So I am loath to write him off as, he's done for, MAGA's gone, it's lame duck presidency. I think they've got their plans. Obviously, they're having some problems with members of their party, but let's see how many other people do an MTG.
Yes. But don't you think some of this is like a cloak for, like, Donald Trump said he was going to make things cheaper. He got in office and immediately made everything more expensive.
Yes.
He told Latino voters he was going to do, he was going to crack down on the worst of the worst. What he meant was anyone who looked Latino. He made a lot of promises to a lot of different people, was unable to keep any of them. And now we're 10 months in and people are starting to get mad at him, as they do when you make lots of promises you can't keep. So, like, is Epstein just a smokescreen for the underlying fractures that have nothing to do with it?
100%. And you saw that with Marjorie Taylor Greene, in fact. She didn't just turn on him over Epstein. She turned on him over Gaza, which is another festering wound. But also she turned him over affordability. She went on CNN, of all places, and talked about how Mike Johnson was wrong about the shutdown and how Donald Trump was wrong about prices going down when they're going up. Now, again, are there others who have the guts to do what MTG did. She has an independent platform. She's very popular. She raises money from small donors. Yeah, she's wealthy independently. Like, she's able to kind of stave off, at least in the short term, attacks from Trump. The average Republican backbench House member can't and won't. Right. So I'm not sure they'll follow. But you're right. The underlying issues are the big thing here. Donald Trump made everything worse at home and abroad, even though he goes around claiming he solved 8 wars, which he didn't, obviously. And on the inflation side, Molly, have you seen all these MAGA influencers praising Trump for taking tariffs off of things now?
Tariffs
so it's
he put on.
Hold on. He put them on there. Yeah. You told us they were fine. They wouldn't raise prices. And now you want us to praise him for taking things off. Donald Trump is this classic thing where you often find yourself as a Trump defender, defending Trump after Trump has thrown you under the bus. So a classic example is Troy Niels, the congressman who spent all weekend saying we're not going to release the Epstein files. There's no reason to. And then Trump on Sunday said, release the Epstein files. And you're like, oh, the memo didn't go out in time. And he does that often. People go out and defend Trump, and then he will do the exact opposite of what they just said. So that's going to be a running sore for them as well. Look, the problem we have, Molly, is I was talking to a friend the other day and I said, we've had, I think it was last month, and I said, we've had 9-10 months of Trump. They went, what? What do you mean? I thought it's been more than a year. And I was like, no, it's only been 9 or 10 months. And there's this sense of, I don't think people quite get that this guy is not even a year in. Well, all the chaos and harm and incompetence and authoritarianism and wars abroad, we're now maybe going to war with Venezuela. All of that's happened in his first 10 months. We still have more than 3 years left, minimum, of this guy, minimum.
Don't say that. It's not nice. I'm already so stressed out. No, I'm just kidding. But I do think that's right. And I'm thinking about when Donald Trump said that he had an MRI.
Oh, but you're not sure what for.
Right. Yeah, this is his second yearly doctor's visit had advanced imaging. And everyone was like, oh, advanced imaging. Well, that's odd. Also, a doctor's visit once a year, except twice this year because it's... And then he said, yeah, I had an MRI. And they said, dude, was it your brain? And he said, I don't know. Right.
Can you imagine? They're like pushing him into that circular, what is that little tube they put you in? And he's like, what's this for? I don't know. Don't worry about it, sir. Again, I know we played this horrific game far too much, but can you imagine if Joe Biden was asked about an MRI that he had hidden from the public, and then he said about the MRI, I had the best MRI ever. What was it for? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane that this guy can have 2 medical tests, 2 annual checks as a president. He can have weird bruising on his hands that he doesn't need to tell us about.
Right.
He can the ankles. He can disappear from public view and not do any interviews for about 5-6 days. We're allowed to say why. He can have an MRI and we're not told why. He gets shot in the ear and we've never actually had any official medical records about it, nor been able to speak to the doctors who treated him. And miraculously, his ear healed faster than my shaving cuts.
Yeah. No. It would make a person a conspiracy theorist.
I write a Monday morning newsletter for Zeteo called First Draft. And this morning, Monday morning's email newsletter is about how we're all Epstein conspiracy theorists now, how I spent my life resisting conspiracy theories on the left, in Muslim communities, anti-Semitic, 9/11, all of those. I've spent years fighting back against those. And yet now in 2025, Donald Trump has made me into a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, because there is no way to process this information. It just doesn't make sense, right? Like with all of this stuff, it's just,
Well, so there's just too many smoking guns.
Right.
Like Jeffrey Epstein sends an email to an unknown person in December 2018 saying, I'm the only one who can bring him down. 7 months later, he's arrested and detained by Trump's DOJ. A month after that, he dies in prison where the cameras aren't working. Well, sorry, what? A Netflix writer's room would throw that out as being unrealistic and a little bit too on the nose.
Yeah. It's not good. It's not good.
Nope.
It's not
nothing
good.
about our current predicament is good, Molly.
I want to talk for a minute about this pivot. So Trump world, he knew the discharge petition. Mike Johnson shuts down the entire House of Representatives, sends everyone home.
Refuses to seat an elected Democrat from Arizona.
Right. Do you remember what the numbers are? I think it was a 40-day shutdown. The House was in session for 4 days.
Yeah, like something insane, not double digits.
Yeah, he sent them home because he did not want them to sign the discharge petition or do any business or get together and talk about Epstein. So now they know they're going to lose this discharge vote, and we heard that it may be as many. We had heard that it might have been as many as 100 Republicans were going to vote with him. vote against him. So he decides on Sunday night, you reference this, but I think we have to talk about it a little more. He decides on Sunday night that he is going to just have them release the files. Yeah, or have a vote on releasing the files.
Yeah, so to be clear, it's interesting how you phrase that, because let's be clear, the files are with the Department of Justice. Pam Bondi famously went on Fox in February and said, they're on my desk, ready to go. Right? So when we talk about releasing the files, it doesn't require a vote in Congress.
No.
If Donald Trump wants to release the files, he can release the files tomorrow morning. It's not as if his DOJ is some independent entity. We know that Pam Bondi is basically just a kind of, like a restaurant server at this point for Donald Trump. She moves as soon as he tells her to move. So if he wants, he can just put out a Truth Social post saying, Pam, put out all the files tonight on a website.
Yeah.
The fact, this whole vote for it is just him trying to cover himself from an embarrassing loss, as you say, or a defection of many members of his party. Thomas Massie, who he's gone to war with, aside from MTG, the Republican congressman, who's been leading the charge with Ro Khanna on the Epstein discharge, he's said very eloquently that, Donald Trump will be gone. I'm not sure he will be gone, but may be gone in 4 years, but you'll still be around and people remember you as defenders of pedophiles, he said to his colleagues. That's obviously had some traction, that remark.
Yeah. And then he went after Massie for getting remarried too quickly. Which
Massie, a widow. Can I explain that?
Right.
Massie, whose wife died.
Right.
He went after him for getting married again. And Laura Loomer, his media ally, questioned how Massie's wife died. I mean, there is no bottom for this Republican Party.
And it is also important to remember this is like Donald Trump, who's 3 wives in and has numerous allegations of infidelity.
Allegedly cheated on his 3rd wife just after she gave birth.
Was a porn star who he wrote a check to, but probably fine.
Paid off. And blah, blah.
Anyway.
Anyway.
But yes. So there'll be a vote now. Let's talk about this protocol for a minute. There'll be a vote now, and then it will go to the Senate.
And do they even have the votes in the Senate? Because Republican senators there are in a very different boat. They were never on the whole Epstein train, right? It was a very much an MTG, Boebert, a Massie, the kind of unhinged folks in the House. I mean, the great irony, as I point out in my newsletter this morning, is these guys spent 4 years banging the drum about Epstein, jumping on QAnon bandwagons about there being a secret cabal.
These are the craziest
cabal of politicians covering up a child sex trafficking ring. Turns out they may have been right.
Yeah.
But the ring and the cover-up was on their side of the aisle, right?
Correct.
That's the problem they have now, is that all of these people, not just the members of Congress, but the Bongino and the Kash Patel, the FBI director, they all pushed this Epstein stuff. And now they're in a position to really make true on it. They're unable to go through with it. And we know the timeline, Molly, on the reporting. It's when they went through the files, they devoted hundreds of members of the government, hundreds of members of the bureaucracy were diverted onto the task of going through the files and just doing Control F Trump all the way through. And when they saw how many times his name appears, and Zeteo has put a searchable archive of all of the 20,000 documents that were released by the House Oversight Committee. You can look at Zeteo.com. You can search them for yourselves. You will see Donald Trump's name appears more than anybody else's apart from Jeffrey Epstein. That's when they decided, we can't release this stuff. We have to pretend all is fine. There's nothing to see here. Move along, move along.
Yes. I just wonder where it goes, right? Because so we know that Pam Bondi supposedly had it on her desk. Again, we don't really know because everybody's lying. I think it's fair to agree that pretty much everybody's lying here.
My position on this administration is you assume it's a lie until it's proved to be the truth.
True. But either way, we know there's a ton of information that did go to the DOJ, and it was videos and emails and depositions. I mean, that's the other thing that's worth remembering is right now all we've seen are the emails that they flooded us with from the Republicans, the Oversight Committee emails. And then we've seen the emails from Bloomberg, from Jason Leopold that he got from FOIAs. That is it. We haven't seen, I guess that the House released some stuff like the Michael Wolff, that long Michael Wolff article. Can we do 2 seconds on Michael Wolff here? Because
oh my God.
So this is a guy who was advising, writing,
doing PR for
friending
Jeffrey Epstein, one of the most famous journalists of our time. He's super famous. A lot of people in the industry don't like him for good reason. I think these emails show everything that's wrong with journalism in this country. The worst parts of our kind of establishment journalism. And his argument, just to play devil's advocate, he's arguing that I have to suck up to these people to get access. That's how I got an interview with Donald Trump. And we know that's how it works with Trump. You suck up to Trump, he invites you in, he gives you an interview, then he doesn't like what you've written and he attacks you. We know that. And that's what happened to Wolf. He wrote these best-selling books, Fire and Fury, and I think a whole 3 or 4 books. I've lost track. And he did that by sucking up, clearly. With Epstein, I think it's harder for him to make that case because it's very clear from the emails that we've seen that they were friends, that he was advising him, that he was trying to spin on his behalf. And giving him PR and media advice. It's kind of disgusting because let's not forget, Molly, important point, for the context for all these emails, whether it's Larry Summers, who's also in the emails, getting advice
Larry
from Epstein,
Summers,
getting advice from Epstein on how to move on allegedly on a Chinese academic whose father was a Communist Party official. Whether it's Summers, whether it's Wolf, whether it's, God help us, Noam Chomsky, whoever's in those emails, they
Bill
all
Clinton.
knew at that point that this guy was convicted in 2008 for child sex crimes or soliciting. At that point, the plea deal he got was for soliciting an under 18-year-old. But the point is, they all knew who he was. They all knew what he was guilty of.
He was a registered sex predator at that point.
He had been in prison, even if it was a kind of soft prison that he got to leave every day. So there's no excuse for any of these people to have been friendly with him, hanging out with him, giving him advice. It's truly disgusting and depraved. It's a real reflection of what goes on, unfortunately, in some of it. Really confirms for a lot of people, go back to conspiracy theory stuff, about just how intertwined kind of the most depraved elements of our media and political establishments are.
I also think that it speaks to a kind of world. I mean, this is a world that doesn't necessarily exist anymore, right? Some of it. And thank God for that. Right. Like, I mean, when you.
But unfortunately, some of these emails are from like 2018 and 2019. Like this stuff.
I know.
This stuff and these connections are still happening.
It's pretty dark.
And people keep saying, oh, well, Bill Clinton. I'm like, yeah, nobody cares. Get it out.
Bring him out. I mean,
bring him out. Nobody wants to protect Bill Clinton.
A nonpartisan exercise, if, and I know he's not, but if Barack Obama, who is like as close to sort of a democratic deity as one could have, if he were in there, we'd want him out too. I mean, this is not a partisan activity.
Yeah, I mean, his name is mentioned in different times in the emails, but yeah, there's no evidence that Obama ever partied with Epstein or went on his jet in the way that Clinton and Trump did.
Right.
And again, no accusations of wrongdoing, we have to add, in this very litigious climate. But it looks bad.
Right.
And the fact that he's tried to cover it up until Sunday night when he said release it all, the fact that he was willing to go to war with Marjorie Taylor Greene, the fact that he announced a criminal investigation into only Democrats mentioned in these documents.
That was amazing, too.
I mean, amazing. Again, with Trump, each and every one of these things that we're talking about for any other president would be a multi-week, multi-month scandal. The fact that Donald Trump just casually on Sunday told his attorney general, I want you to investigate these Democrats who are in the files. And she said, sure, I'm an appointed attorney right now. That in itself, Molly, you and I were saying this last year. If we said this last year, we were told it was Trump derangement syndrome to suggest that Trump would do stuff as brazenly as he's doing.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Thank you for making the time for me. I always really enjoy talking to you, despite the fact that
I appreciate it. I feel like when you and I talk, Molly, whether it's on my podcast or it's like a therapy session.